back to Berlin, Germany after this important win in the race for playoffs, and in the end the minions take it for Vitality. Carzzy, thank you so much for joining me for this interview. You were all laughing by the end of the game, so I can imagine why, but can you talk me through the communication and how was everything going in the last moments of the game?
So I don't even think we've noticed that there is so many minions in their base. We've just been focused on winning the fight, which we lost because we kind of missed Zilan ult, you know. And then yeah, I mean once we noticed, like when the fight was basically ending, we noticed that the minions are taking the base, and then we knew we just have to play slowly and cancel the recalls. And yeah, the minions did the job.
Right? Yeah. Came in as a surprise, I assume, given that you're telling me you didn't know there were so many minions at the base. Did you feel in control during the last stages of the game, though?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I mean, after we took Nashor, basically, the game was really easy to win. We even spotted them flanking us, which was the only way they can win against us. And yeah, the minions did the job, like I said.
All right. Yeah, well, nice job by the minions, but also by Vitality, of course. All credit to the players. I want to roll back a bit and talk about the draft, specifically about the bot lane, because it feels like right now the game is mostly about Jinx Aphelios. Which pick is prior in which situation? So I want to have your take on these two champions, Carzzy, because it seems like they're very pivotal champions in the late stages of the game. But who do you think has the better scaling and maybe better role in the compositions that we see right now?
So I think that it depends on the team comp. I think both AD carries can outscale the other one. It also depends on the skill level of the team, because I think for better teams, Aphelios is more valuable because you can be more creative with the pick. And Jinx is a lot easier to play than Aphelios. Also, it has Prow in the early, which is pretty good for this champ.
Right.
And honestly, I think they are quite the same.
Okay, quite the same, but maybe different use, regardless of the composition you're playing it in. Last question about Vitality. It looks like the team is becoming more and more a team that shines through team fights and really good macro plays in the mid to late game. Is there anything you would like to refine in the games leading to playoffs?
I mean, we are trying our best to play good early game, because I think we've been struggling with that the most. And that's our biggest focus at the moment, because I think we have pretty good mid game and our team fights are really good as well.
All right, well, let's see what you guys can implement in the last games you have left. Carzzy, thank you so much for the interview and good luck in your game tomorrow. And before jumping on to the next game, let's hear Trymbi and his thoughts about facing Hylissang. Stay tuned.
It would be really nice to win versus Fnatic, because I think Hyli is really amazing player. I really love watching him, and I think people want. I kind of want to be in the way like him, because I can see that if you're actually caring about what he's doing an amazing job. And I really want to also play like this, so people actually see this. It's also the other side of the coin, because he has to do stuff that sometimes look really flippy. So it is what it is, but he's really amazing player, and would be nice to face him.
Well, Trymbi with some nice words for Hylissang, and I think Hylissang is one of those players that, as a support, if you're starting out now or in any of the previous years, you're always looking up to. And I know that at the top of the day, Broxah, we talked about no matter what iteration of Fnatic it is, they have that tendency to be very aggressive, right? And to go for the clutch. How much of that comes down to Hyli?
Well, there's no doubt that Hyli is a big part of that aggression. Like when Bwipo joined the team, it got amplified a little bit because both of them were like really on the same page with aggression. Now Bwipo obviously is not there anymore, but Hyli is the type of player who's I don't think he's ever going to change, you know, no matter what team he's playing for, no matter what champion he plays, he's always going to look for those opportunities, and he's so good at finding them as well.
When it comes to Trymbi then, who's up against him here, Nymaera, do you see similarities between the two? Are they similar kind of players or not really?
I think that they impact their teams in a very different way. I think the most important thing about how Trymbi is playing right now and the style that he's playing is that he's going towards more of the enchanters. That really helps with how Malrang wants to play the map, because the enchanters can very much help out with the jungle, kind of like start the fight earlier. I think that that's been a very different way to kind of Hilly starting at a different point. The kindling is lit at a different point because if they win the 2v2, then Hilly starts moving out rather than kind of like the jungler moving towards them.
So both the play style of the respective teams, and I guess Broxah also the fact that Hilly is very confident, it seems like, when you're watching him play because of the years experience he has. Is that a great contributor to why he makes the decisions that he always makes?
I don't even know if I would say that's part of it, honestly, because I know just from my first few games playing with Huli, playing in scrims, it's just the way it is. He just has that confidence. He's just always willing to go for those plays, look the opponent in the eye and tell him, you know what, I'm going to outplay you. See you, you're going to have a great screen in a moment, it's all going to be fun. Like, he just goes in for those plays, there's just no mercy, you know.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful to watch.
Yeah, that's what I love about him. I think it's great to have players like that who just have their own unique style of playing the game. Trymbi said it in the interview that he would love to be like Huli one day, because Huli is so unique. What he brings to Fnatic is just so special. And the thing is, it doesn't matter for him who he goes up against. He could be going up against the 10th place LEC team. He could be going up against the best in the world. He's going to play the exact same way. He's just going to go in, play his game, go for some outplays, and often he comes out on top. Usually it works.
Exactly. Talking about unique play style, I'm glad we have you here because Malrang has been the talk of the town. So I'd love to take you over to the telestrator to talk a bit about what makes his play. Oh, you're doing well?
I'm good, I'm good. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
We didn't see anything.
This is smooth. Have you ever seen a smoother walk, guys? Because I definitely have. So in any case, let's talk about Malrang then. As said already, he is the talk of the town when it comes to Rogue and the way he plays. So what are you going to tell us, or teach us rather, about Malrang today?
So I think in a way you could say Malrang is the Huli of Rogue now. He's the one bringing the X factor, bringing the playmaking, and just really looking for those constant plays, constant aggression. And what I really like about him that makes him different than all the junglers in the LEC is that he's willing to sacrifice himself to put his laners ahead. Now Rogue has 3 really strong lanes. That's part of why they're so dominant. You know, once they get to the mid-late game, the laners are stepping up, they're able to carry. And Malrang's playstyle is a big part of why it's so easy to get to that point. Now, I brought 2 examples here today to show you all a bit more about what is special about Malrang, what makes him a little different. Now, the first clip here, Malrang playing Viego, finished 5 camps, finishing his jungle clear, did the top crop. First of all, he looked for the mid gank, pretty normal. You know, he's about to base, but mid gank over, the enemy mid laner overextends, might as well go with the mid gank. Now, what is interesting is what happens here after his base, because now we're just gonna pause here for a second. If we look at the map, Malrang is in a situation where his camps are coming up again. And normally, as a jungler, after you make your first play, this is where you want to catch up. This is where you want to clear your camps before looking for the next opportunity. Unless your name is Malrang. Then you go for the plays right away. So instead of going back to farm his jungle, Malrang runs straight towards mid, helps the mid lane push out, sees if there's an opportunity, but nothing really happens. Moves to bot as well. Again, nothing is going on. And in this case, Malrang ended up wasting a little bit of time. In a different game, this is where he gets the big advantage that can help really snowball Rogue into a good early game lead.
And this is actually coincidentally also the last time that they played Fnatic. Now, obviously, if you're the enemy jungle, and we heard this from Zanzara as well after they beat them, you could track him and find out where he is, right? So why haven't more teams done that then?
Well, that's always easier said than done, right? It's easy to say, well, just don't die to him. Just don't die and everything's going to be great. But the thing is, he really forces the plays, like in this example, and he's really good at looking out for those opportunities like we're going to see in the next clip. It's not all mindless, just crazy ganking. He uses the information he has to make smart decisions. Now, what we're going to see here is Rogue's most recent game against Misfits from week 5, where we see Vitio under Orianna moving in to place a ward on Rogue's Raptors to get that vision on Malrang, get to spot him so they know what he's up to. Larssen puts a ward on Misfits Raptors as well. Now, at this point, both junglers have a lot of information. Malrang sees Xin Zhao playing Lee into Xin. Xin is going to be able to win the early game. Malrang doesn't want to fight the Xin Zhao in bot river. He's going to lose that fight. It's not going to be fun. So he sees Xin doing red Raptors, moving down to bot side. Pretty obvious what the Xin Zhao is going to do. He's going to play for the bot crap. Malrang Malrang moves down, takes his spot camps, and while he's doing the Raptors, this ward that Visio places level 1 is timing out, and that means Misfits all of a sudden don't have any information on what Malrang is gonna do. So, with that in mind, Malrang moves to the top side, does the top crab. He knows that Misfits doesn't have any wards left because the ward from the enemy mid laner was used level 1. No vision top side, lingers around the corner for a little moment, finds the opportunity on the mid lane. And all of this is something that can easily be pre-planned level 1, which I'm sure is something Malrang brought up. You know, he's like, well, they have this ward, I don't want to fight the Xin Zhao. Larssen, set up the wave in a state where I can gank it, I'll come level 3, we're gonna get first blood, and life is gonna be great. At least that's how I hope it happened, because that would be a pretty beautiful setup.
Yes, thank you for that. As we go back to the desk, as we're going to cover picks and bans. So it's not as easy as, oh, he's just playing for his laners and trying to gank at whatever chance he gets. It's also using your information to the fullest and to your advantage. Is that one of the hardest things to do as a jungler in a new team?
It can be, because the thing is, every team has different systems, different ways of communicating, different ways of playing the game. It seems like Malrang on Rogue is vocal. He's like taking over the early games, kind of playing the game the way he wants to. And I'm kind of assuming that Malrang is the one leading this. Rogue laner's good at feeding him information, good at setting up the lanes in a way where he can really come to help them. Because obviously, being a laner for Rogue, this is pretty lovely for them. I mean, I would be happy if I had a jungler playing this way, being willing to sacrifice himself for me getting ahead. Yeah. Which is often what happens.
And then if you look at the meta, it is all about scaling laners as well. Congratulations on beating the Telestrator. I know it's a rite of passage as well.
Yeah, some people never do it, so great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love how it all wraps together into one complete picture about how Rogue are playing the game.
Yes, definitely. So we're going to be looking at the junglers also in this game. A fantastic marquee matchup, Fnatic versus Rogue. Oh, I was baited. It wasn't happening yet, but I'm happy that it's happening. We're going to cover the picks and bans. Is that Medic that I hear laughing in my ear already? That I was absolutely baited. Yeah, we got to stay on our toes. Oh, hi guys. Hi. We're actually not doing the picks and bans, so I don't know what's going on. You know, a very important thing in broadcasting is like build up to the apex of the moment. You know, when it's just ruined. It's just awful.
We like to challenge expectations here in all forms.
In all forms. Regardless, I don't know if I'm going to get cut off immediately, but in any case, there's much more that is exciting about this matchup than just the jungle, but it does all start with that. Do we think Razork is going to have a ban? Never mind, pick some bans, let's go! And here we are then finally arriving in those picks and bans. Fnatic versus Rogue, as said. We'll be looking closely at the jungle pool, but, you know, normally it's not that exciting to see what happens in the jungle. So where are we looking at in terms of priorities for both these teams?
I think it's a very clear R1-2 Aatrox. I think that's what we've seen. Yeah, I think obviously a couple of things to keep an eye on, as we've seen throughout most of the day. Are we going to see both of the hyper carry AD carries taken out of the pool? Zeri's probably going to be on red side, and then it kind of falls down the list in terms of, okay, maybe there's a Gwen left, maybe there's a Jhin left.
I think this is going to be a traditional League of Legends game in the sense that it's really going to come down to the two carry positions. There's some really strong mid lane champions and the carry champions in the meta right now that you want to prioritize, you want to get your hands on. Both of these teams are incredibly good at playing around their carries and setting them up for success. And with Comp versus Upset, with the two strongest mid laners in the league currently in Larssen and Humanoid, if they can get their hands on some favorable situations and those matchups, that will be really big.
And then I think the other thing on the checklist for me outside of that is actually, can Fnatic's bot lane fight 2v2 early on? Because when they have been able to, they've typically won those fights and then won the rest of the map from that. So we'll have to see what happens again in terms of what's going to happen in regards to actually, are they going to pass over the AD carry at that point for a favorable support matchup early on? Lots of ways this can kind of switch about.
Yeah, for sure. Now the draft is pretty interesting so far because the two strongest mid laners in Ryze and Victor are actually gone. The jungle pool has been pinched quite a bit by Fnatic, removing Java and removing Hecarim. and they actually go for the Twisted Fate first pick. That's a slightly new one. It's a pick that Humanoid has been really great on recently though, and it works really well with Hyli's playstyle, just having that aggression, having the opportunities to make those cross-map plays in the early game as well.
In fact, last time they played, it was Larssen who played the TF and they won versus Fnatic. So maybe that informs a little bit more why the priority is there for
Yes,
Fnatic.
but this is nerf TF as well now. So, you know, you don't have as much attack speed on your E, you're not going to be fighting as hard level 1, your wave clears harder because your Q damage is down, blah, 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 all that stuff. But this is so much burden of responsibility now onto Humanoid, who has been carrying that burden so well for this team. I don't know if you could do this for another mid laner in the LEC on current form right now. So this shows a lot of promise from Fnatic and their expectations on this player.
I think in general, if you're confident enough to first pick TF in a situation like this, it shows that you're coming into the game with a clear plan. I'm assuming they're going to prepare for like an early dive or just an early Herald play. Like have something prepared early to actually make this TF play worth it, because Rogue could easily pick something like an Orianna or an Asia, like something strong, scaling that is going to be able to take over in the later stages where Humanoid is not going to be able to match it.
Okay, so I was actually wondering if at this point they wanted to lock in a support early with Fnatic, because there's stuff which can fight a little earlier and set up for the TF if they want to go straight down bot side, and we've already talked about how bot lane was very important for the side of Fnatic, so stuff like Nautilus might have been a good pick for them. We've seen that combo with Aphelios popping up more and more. However, both teams actually favoring the solo laners, and as we were kind of talking about, oh, the AD carry is very important, that support matchup, particularly with these two on the table, is being left later and later into it so we can get a potential counter pick.
Yeah, and currently all supports except Fresh are actually open. Viego being taken off the table. Razork's champion pool is being pinched quite a little bit here, so he's going to have to dig relatively deep to find the champion of his choice. Now, a champion he has played really well last week was Diana, who actually could work pretty well here into the Jinx, into the Orianna, help setting up those you know, team fights, get them rolling, and it's pretty good with the Jayce and the Aphelios as well, because they already have plenty of AD damage.
Yeah, you already said about the Jayce. I actually wonder if Trundle is a potential option as well, because the ability to fight early on, and then the ability to set up Jayce's poke very well, particularly with the gold card locked into, means you have a lot of ability to fight around the fringe of the fights as opposed to just the hard engage. So there are several options here.
Is this a sign that Rogue is also, from a pick and ban standpoint, trying to give the best cards to Malrang in the way he likes to play the game? You know, the first picking this in Zhao and then pinching the pool?
Potentially, it's hard to say, right? Because I feel like Fnatic kind of put themselves in this situation, banning down and
Yeah, they actually
obviously, I think looking at Fnatic's draft, forcing the TF pick, forcing the Jayce, they probably have a clear plan of wanting to shut down Odoamne rather than looking into the jungle matchup in particular, because they draft a really strong top lane and they draft the TF more supportive, like team-oriented pick. Pyke has been taken off the table from Hyli here, so I'm wondering if he's going to look into another pick that could roam, really get that Jayce rolling, because top matchup is going to be pretty volatile. Jayce into Graves. Now Nautilus, one of those picks that could look for an early base and really influence the other side of the map if he wants to.
Okay, so it took us a little while. We actually managed to call out most of those picks which Fnatic were looking towards. They actually have options to play towards either side of the map now. Yeah. I'm a little worried that they have to play towards both sides of the map, because if Jayce starts falling behind the Graves, then you have the Hullbreaker problem, where Jayce either has the option of going into the Hullbreaker himself and delaying his spike, or not going into it and having zero wave control on the other side. So I think that Rogue have potentially given Fnatic the burden of trying to play the entire map at once.
Very possible. Now, I'm really looking forward to seeing this jungle matchup in particular. I mean, I guess that's kind of obvious. I'm a little biased. I'm a jungle player, but Xin Zhao against Diana is a matchup where Xin Zhao wants to make so many things happen early. He wants to pressure, he wants to look for those early fights. Diana obviously can. Now, she really spikes at level 6, but last time Razork played Diana against Jankos, he got a massive lead in the early game, and there's a chance he can do the same thing now, because Diana just naturally farms faster than Xin Zhao. Maybe can get the map rolling, but if Malrang plays as aggressive as he usually does, it might be hard to get to that point.
Yeah, but what I love about what Rogue have done with the last pick with the Tahm Kench is that they have given an ability to stave off the TF pressure towards bot side with that Devour, so it means that Rogue can possibly leave them on their own little bot lane island, play more towards that Graves, get them into a better position in that matchup topside, which we already talked about. I think Rogue have a easier game plan to go towards with that.
Does it look like Rogue is really waiting for Fnatic to come to them, which they're going to have to do since they also have the Jinx and the scaling on their side?
Yeah, I think the adaptation, like picking the Graves was a pretty safe top laner, picking the Tahm Kench who's going to make bot lane really stable, makes a lot of sense, because Fnatic is going to play aggressive. Like they have the Nautilus who can easily roam, they have TF, they have Jayce, they need to win the early game. it's pretty clear that they're gonna go ham. So Rogue, pick something stable, just wants to survive, and then they can take over in the mid game.
Looks like both teams is bread and butter in the picks and bans. Fnatic versus Rogue. Let's get into it.
Let's get on into it. Fnatic versus Rogue. Thank you very much, Analysts desk, for taking the picks and bans, but we'll take it from here. I'm Medic. I'm joined by Dagda. Welcome back to the LEC. Great to have you back, Dagda.
It's nice to get a chance to cast with you again. It's been a hot minute since we were actually together on a desk, so I'm looking forward to it.
EU Masters a long time ago, but we have urgent League of Legends to talk about. Fnatic versus Rogue, last time they met, it was actually quite a slow affair in the early game, and we saw it really explode between the 25 and the 29-minute mark, with Rogue ending the game with about a 10,000 gold lead. But here, we'll have to see how these two teams match up against each other. And before we actually get into the action, I do have one quick congratulations to say. Razork is playing his 100th LEC game. Congratulations, Razork. Alongside that, I believe this is Fnatic's 600th LEC game as well. So accolades all round. We'll see if they can round it out with a win.
And we're kind of hoping that Razork will have a big impact in this game, right? Because when you look towards what Fnatic are doing, you're looking towards a lot of a pick composition coming through. The TF wants to try and make sure that he can get out on the map, make sure that he's going to be all good and dandy, and to try and get that started, right? You're looking to see if maybe Razork can try and set up Humanoid in the early stages to have a little bit of push there, because certainly it's not the best of times for Humanoid in this Orianna matchup.
Can be a little bit tricky for the Twisted Fate, and when we've seen Humanoid on the Twisted Fate in the past, it's all about getting out of this lane, getting that Destiny, using it effectively in the early game and getting your lanes ahead. And of course we've seen what Upset can do if you do give him an advantage in that bottom lane, and what Fnatic can do if Upset is in a position to carry.
And this is actually something we see a lot from Fnatic to try and give that edge to Upset, right? Whenever you see the Aphelios into this Jinx matchup for Upset, they tend to have Razork start on the top side, so Upset and Hilly can try and attack the wave first and try and prevent that big push from coming through in the early stages. So a lot of what Fnatic like to do, as you say, is try and set up Hylissang and Upset. And when you have two of the best bot laners in the league at wave management, it makes sense to try and give them that opportunity.
At the moment, the wave is being duly managed underneath their tower, pushed in by the Jinx and the Tahm. Kench, of course, Jinx with the rockets very good at pushing those initial waves, has a little bit more AoE than the Aphelios, so this is kind of to be expected. This ward from Rogue, though, will spot out Razork if he tries to come through the tri-bush.
And he was aware of it. If you actually watch the way Razork pathed, he went over to the blast cone, hopped over the wall, so he was trying to bypass all of that vision that might have been there. So for Razork, really interesting path and kind of aware of what Rogue are trying to do in the early stages, which is to spot him out.
Control ward comes down, we'll spot out that ward that was placed near the Razor Beaks. I will say all of those disconnects, reconnects. It's a Rogue game. This tends to happen around this point. I promise you that all of them are still connected into the match and will be trying their hardest to take this win over Fnatic. Would give them their second win of the season over Fnatic. And alongside that, of course, really solidify themselves in that top spot in the LEC. Currently sitting at 11-2, 2 wins ahead. If you can win this game, you're then looking at being, 3 wins ahead of Fnatic with a 2-0 head-to-head, basically guaranteeing yourself at least the top 2 spots.
And I think as well, kind of just bringing a bit of stability back to Rogue as well, right? They had that terrible week 5, so being able to kind of come off of week 6 with 2 wins, now start your week 7 off with a win against Fnatic as well, I think that would just mean a lot for these guys. And I like that we're kind of seeing Rogue go back to this like team fighting style of composition. This is kind of what I've favored them on the most, with like playing towards comp, getting him set up. They've kind of tried a couple of things with where they're trying to play side lanes and stuff, but certainly these kind of zone control team fight styles have been way more comfortable for them.
And I do looking back at it, Dagda, you had some really good insight on kind of what you thought Rogue's troubles may have been in week 5 and how they struggled a little bit. And it seemed to come down to teams were just actually really good at reading Malrang and reading what he wanted to do and stopping him from getting these leads. And you can see in the first half of the season, Rogue had substantial leads at the 14-minute mark. Lots of kills, not too many deaths. But then in the second half, that all seemed to fall off a cliff a little bit.
And I think a lot of that, as you said, was teams starting to get like vision control in onto the opposite side of the jungle for Malrang. And yes, Malrang might get some ganks off, but oftentimes teams are realizing, oh, okay, you've invested a lot of time into bot side. We're going to go steal away your top side camps. We're going to go make sure that we can play towards the opposite side of the map, doing really nice cross-map plays. And it meant that even when Rogue were kind of getting these plays off, the opportunity cost really wasn't worth it. This game, though, I actually think we might not see that. I think Razork, when you've got the Diana here, it's really difficult when you don't have mid push off the Twisted Fate as well to get in, get that vision control down, and make something nice happen.
Trymbi should be okay here. Even with the Ignite ticking, he does have the thick skin. A lot invested, was exhaust for Ignite, so both of the supports have burnt their offensive summoner spells, or defensive, in the form of the exhaust there. And it's something we see often from Hylissang. He's very unwilling to allow you to get, you know, a freeze or allow you to get a safe base off. And,
or feel safe at any point in time.
Exactly, yeah. You want a base? Go back to the fountain and then you can base. It's kind of Hylissang's general mentality. Looking at the early game, though, has been a little bit slower. Both the junglers were spotted out on their initial path, so weren't really able to find those ganks. Mid lane, we're seeing Swifties first from Humanoid, not something we see too often on the Twisted Fate, but does once again, when you get to that level 6, give you a little bit more roam potential and into something like an Orianna, like a Tahm Kench, like a Graves who do have these slows. The slow reduction can definitely help.
I think that's the big one as well, because when I look at like Rogue's composition, where's the engage tools, right? Yeah. Like you're kind of relying on the Xin Zhao, so it's like, oh, the wind becomes lightning with the slow to get that engage. So things like the Swifties where you might end up with a Tahm Kench tongue causing you issues, you can actually try and get away from it. Rogue, though, using the push they have on bot now and also mid to start this up. I don't know if Fnatic can really contest with a level 5 Diana.
Well, Hylissang's flashing forward. He's always willing to take the fight. Destiny comes in as well, and Razork will secure the Infernal. Stolen away, Upset coming in for a fight. Rogue may have to back away. He'll use preemptively. Shockwave hits 2, the hook connects as well. Upset has to open up with the chakrams, but first blood goes over to Comp. Flash away as Upset looks to try and survive. He gets one in response. Malrang now low. Humanoid stepping forward, no mana on him, but a double for Upset. Fnatic stole away the dragon, take 2 kills to boot, and now Larssen's being forced away. Calibrum just a little bit wide.
I did not expect Fnatic to be able to take that fight. I looked, I was like, you know what? The mid-jungle 2v2 is super strong when you hit that level 6 for Larssen. That's really a nice way to start things off. You know, even just from a damage profile perspective, Humanoid just can't really match, but I mean, the fact that you've got this Aphelios, that's one of the things that he's strong at, is these early skirmishes. It's one of the advantages, at least in relation to the Jinx that he has. And you can see here, right? You end up with Humanoid hopping into the pit. Malrang goes insanely low, has to try and smite to keep himself healthy, which means he can't get that Dragon Smite off. And from this point forward, like, Upset has Infernum. Whenever he's getting these auto attacks off, they're doing so much damage, despite the fact that we had that quick Orianna Shockwave coming in.
You see, it's just neck and neck right at the end. Humanoid basically no mana at the end of it. The wild cards connecting with Upset shots, gets him the double. And then after that, he has just that extra range from the Calibrum to keep them at bay.
And this is something that you really need to see from Fnatic, right? When you're playing this sort of pick-orientated style, you want to, well, look for picks, but Fnatic don't really care. As long as you can get those early advantages, that's what you're really interested in. So now you can start turning this into, okay, we've got 2 kills on Upset. He has control of bot side. Let's shove out. You know, Rift Herald's in 15 seconds. They're setting up a slow push in bot lane. Let's rotate our bot lane up to Rift Herald. It becomes a very easy snowball now for Fnatic that Rogue are going to have to try and interrupt.
And let's see if they can keep that snowball rolling. At the moment, Razork is going to start up the Rift Herald, and as you say, Upset and Hylissang already working their way up through that bot side jungle. Trymbi in the vicinity, waiting to see perhaps if they can find Humanoid out. Wind becomes lightning going forward. Hylissang there with a hook once again. Larssen has the Shockwave, stun card onto Malrang, will stop him in his tracks as now Trymbi, Malrang and Larssen have to retreat back to the safety of their tower. Rift Herald wasn't reset, so that will be secured for Fnatic. Comp continues to push in the bottom lane though, and we'll have some free time with this tower to try and at least get a plate.
And I like the way Rogue have kind of positioned themselves here, right? You got Trymbi and Larssen who are trying to contest the mid-wave push while you end up with Malrang moving down to just help Comp. So when you've invested this much time as Fnatic topside, Comp's just answering the turret plates on bot.
And that Rift Herald resetting actually takes a lot of pace out of this play, because if you can take it, immediately shove 5 people to the top lane, you play to force Odoamne away, and then you get all of this extra pressure, it can really change the pace of a game. But Odoamne able to walk away. All this time, Comp is just free. Down towards the bottom side. Look at his gold. He's 400 gold ahead right now. He's going to get another plate. That will get him a little bit more. Odoamne's overstepped a bit here, though, and will flash away. Collateral damage. Able to keep him alive. The smoke screen, stopping the auto attack out of Razork, saves Odoamne's life.
That is really good from Odo, though, in mid here.
Trymbi wasn't quite on the right page in terms of location of the shockwave. Oh, that's not, no, Observer, stop baiting us. Stop it.
So, the thing, though, that we are looking at here is that Comp has pretty much got all this gold solo.
Yeah.
And when you look at the top side, right, you actually had 3 people sharing that gold, a little bit more when you also still had Wunder in the vicinity as well. So when you look at the gold advantage that is there, you're still looking at 300 in favor of Comp. And this is one of the things that, I mean, pretty much we've talked to any AD carry in an interview will say, like, yeah, I mean, Aphelios versus Jinx, it very much is dependent on who can get these early advantages. And even now, with the 2 kills that Upset picked up in the early stages, Comp, with this reset, will be able to match that pace.
The player with a small advantage for Fnatic is Razork. He was about 500 gold ahead in the jungle. Of course, Diana can do a lot of work. We saw Razork fluff a few combos last week, but he still had a great performance. He didn't die, got 4 kills. You know, he still did well on the Diana, even if sometimes his flash E's weren't quite on point.
I mean, when do you not have a lead against Malrang? As the enemy,
that is true.
Like,
that is true.
Look, but still, I mean, I do agree, right? Razork has been pretty good so far, and I'm curious to see now exactly how things are going to escalate now that he's hit the level 6, right? Because that's really where this Diana comes online, and especially when you have Humanoid, he's also got his ult available. It becomes very easy for you to start to operate these picks, especially if you can get vision established in this topside jungle. That seems to be what Fnatic are going for, right? You can already see you've got the push on the top with Hilly. He's starting to move in to get vision, and then you can actually start to contest some of these camps from Malrang and set him even further behind.
Definitely help putting that Xin Zhao in a situation where he can't just dive into the enemy team, just try and get as much damage down as possible. And that matchup between the AD carries is one we have been watching a lot across the course of the season. Upset, actually the only player in our league yet to die at the 14-minute mark. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, he hasn't died, but he's just, you know, a KDA player. This guy has the tied most kills as well at the 14-minute mark. Like, he is getting a bunch of kills. He doesn't actually have that much extra help from his jungler, although Hylissang is doing a lot of work in that bot lane. And both of these bot laners are having very good early games in general. We see that echoed once again in this game.
I'm not going to lie, I'm slightly infatuated with Upset and Hilly. I think they're insane, but that is not what I wanted to see from Hilly there.
That's the other side of Hilly. So with the Destiny coming in, the Crescent Guard will keep Malrang alive for a second, but not for long enough. It's 1-for-1 traded. Trymbi, though, caught out, is going to try and get away. Will escape. Thick Skin's still there. Humanoid, heal. Won't be able to get in range. The flash out of Humanoid didn't quite get the gold card close enough.
Nice pick, though, coming through from Fnatic, right, to get that started. Unfortunate that he had to give his life, but does give a huge amount of control back onto this top side. And that's all the Fnatic are trying to do, right, is just look for these picks, fish for ways that they can try and open up this game. Specifically, they want to start looking to try and get this mid lane turned down at some stages.
Oh, it's Humanoid still here. He's coming forward, but Upset. Whoa, that was so greedy from Upset. Gale force forward, flash heal away. Well, he didn't die, so he keeps his record alive, I guess.
Just about. That was a little bit dicey. I mean, I like the idea of a Humanoid coming up, right? But you know, Humanoid has no flash. He just used it. Even having to swap over to the heal on the unsealed spell because he came out just like, all right, show your boots there a little bit. But you see here, right? Unfortunate that the hook misses. It means that Malrang gets to run away with just that smidge. The re-engage here from Fnatic, though, is just great, right? You get Upset to try and follow up. He's got the Gravitum to try and lock folks down. Just unfortunate here that they couldn't quite close the distance onto Trymbi, thanks to that heal from Comp.
There was a lot of Fnatic trying to get that pick in towards the top lane. Has given Larssen a little bit of a CS lead in the mid lane, about 15 to 20, depending on the wave states. But of course, Twisted Fate has that passive that is ticking over extra gold. So that gold difference in the mid lane really won't be too substantial. As you can see, yep, 10 gold. That doesn't even buy you a 7th of a control ward. That's how poor it is. But yeah, nothing too monumental to be talked about right now in that mid lane.
Yeah, the big thing for me to talk about is actually the Dragons.
Yeah.
Because one of the big problems that I see when you get these split push compositions that you get forced to fight early when you don't want to. A lot of that comes down to Dragons, right? Especially when you start to look towards Soul coming through and all that good jazz. But we're actually going to hold on to this because Wunder's in trouble.
Chase is on. Wunder's going to flash away. Flash in by Malrang. Trymbi was going in the opposite direction. Knocked back. Wunder changes into ranged form, but he's still in melee range of Rogue. See, Humanoid was trying to come across to help his top laner, but couldn't get there in time.
I mean, just a nice timing window there from Malrang, right? He knows that you actually don't have the Destiny available on Humanoid, so they go to make that deep play in the opposite side, and it's just unfortunate for Wunder, right? They knew that they were trying to trade cross-map. He's like, look, I'll back away, I'll stop myself from dying, but ends up getting caught out as he tries to finish off the Gromp, and it means that Rogue now keeping up on towers when it comes to those sides, and you got that quick kill for yourself as well.
I mean, this is kind of how we expected this game to go, though, Dagda. Look at it. 14 minutes in, even gold, maybe 50 to 100, the difference between the two teams. Even kills, even towers. The gold is funneled to the same place on both teams, and they both played the way that they wanted to in this early game.
And for me, this is actually a big advantage for Rogue, right? Because when you look at the team fighting composition that they have, when you look at the late game scaling that they have with this Orianna and the Jinx, it's so difficult for Fnatic to actually take even fights, right? One, their composition isn't set up for it, but two, like, think about a poor upset in this situation, right? You try to walk into this fight and there's just an Orianna ball following you around wherever you try to position in the fight. It's so hard to deal with.
That's why he's gone for the Gale Force here as well, just trying to give himself a little bit of extra safety. Humanoid locks in the Everfrost. Shockwave hits only onto Hylissang. Malrang dives over the wall. Doesn't have the flash to get away, but comes ready to kill him. Moonfall on the backline. Trymbi gobbles up Orianna. Larssen's able to stay safe. Trymbi will fall. Stopwatch popped. Destiny going forward as quick kills coming in here for Fnatic. Odoamne a little late on the TP. Fnatic able to find 2 kills in the mid lane.
Fnatic just outnumbered them faster and are in a better position to follow up on that, and now they can start to move up towards this Rift Herald as well that's just spawned on the top side. And when you really want to start getting these like last outer turret down on Rogue side, we're okay. On Rogue side, I'm used to the LPL, man.
Yeah,
that's a fight in my head, all right?
Look, he's got Hullbreaker, the other guy's got Gale Force. I don't think they're going to die.
But you want to try and get this outer turret down, because one of the big things Fnatic are going to try and do is move vision in on opposite sides of the map. Make sure they're kind of keeping Rogue in check. So having this Rift Herald is super good for doing it, but we're just going to catch the replay here. Upset does a really good job here of getting this Gale Force away from that Shockwave as it comes over the wall from Larssen. And that's the big difference maker here. Like, if Upset's actually caught in this, then you have Malrang able to take him down, but it ends up being Malrang traded for Hyli on the bot side, and on the top side, Razork with that ultimate is doing so much work, bursts out the Orianna, and Comp just doesn't have the damage right now to try and follow through.
And that's part of the power of Destiny as well, where we saw Humanoid in the end just destinying forward. It doesn't always have to be moving across the side of the map. Sometimes all you need to do is protect the guy that dived in and popped his stopwatch, and that's exactly what Humanoid does. He goes for it, he's like, hey, if you try and keep fighting this, I'm going to have a gold card in your face in about 30 seconds, and maybe you get sent to the sin bin.
You can see the issues, though, with the Rogue composition in that play, right? Where if Malrang and Larssen don't get that big engage tool off, like, Upset's just free to run around and do as he wishes and fight. So you do have to be very careful here as Rogue that you have to land that one punch to start things off, or things can go wrong very quickly.
It's the Saitama comp. It's one punch, man. That's all you got to hit. Are you Genos in this situation?
I haven't watched it. I know it exists as the bald dude from the anime, and that's about it.
Here's the problem.
All right.
I've cast with Betty for 4 years.
Yeah.
I shouldn't know these names. I shouldn't know them.
Is it just like he just drags you into the room eventually? He's just like,
exactly.
look at this. It's
hey,
just like,
watch this, and then he uses the names. I'm like, well, I don't want to be in your situation where you're like sold down the river, by your coca. So obviously, I don't want to be there. So I have to watch these animes, and then Betty's like, oh yeah, but what about this other one? It's about this person that turns into a slime. I'm like, how is that a good show?
Oshin did that to me. Oshin got me to watch that slime one, and I was like, doesn't work for me.
You know what does work? You know what I enjoy watching?
What?
League of Legends.
That is true.
And that's why we're here. 700 gold between the two teams. 5 kills to 4. Fnatic with those 2 Drakes in their back pocket. And a 4-kill Aphelios. Upset, still unkilled this game. Still unkilled before the 14-minute mark. Fnatic looking to challenge Rogue at the top of the table. And once again, they're looking to challenge this red buff as well. Hylissang misses the hook away. Trymbi's on the chase. Razork has a blast cone, but Rogue were just not chasing him down. Super Mega Death Rock at a possibility, but Razork, fancy enough feet. He's got his tap shoes on today that he can dance his way around that one.
Yeah, Fnatic had the numbers advantage there because he had Humanoid in the vicinity. Wunder was even there. He wasn't matching this push on the bot side. So the fact that they didn't pull the trigger means Rogue get the push on bot. Now they get position on this dragon. And I think at this stage, this is why we're talking about those first 2 dragons going to Fnatic. Just do not contest this as Fnatic. Look at where Humanoid is. Just keep pushing for towers. And this is why it's so strong to get these early dragons in a 1-3-1 composition, because you just get to cross map the entire time and there's nothing Rogue can do. You get a tower for this.
Top lane tier 2 for Fnatic will extend their gold lead. Humanoid just needs that blue card and one more auto. 600 gold in his back pocket as well. Been very active on the map so far, and this battle between Humanoid and Larssen for mid lane supremacy in the LEC Spring continues to rage on. I still remember the first time they came into the league. It was them and Abadage who were like the upcoming new players, and Humanoid had an okay start. Larssen struggled a little bit, but then really rose to the fore. And now you look at people like Perkz and Caps, it's like they're actually playing second fiddle to these new, in inverted commas, players. It's great to see their rise to prominence.
And it's also interesting because, like, I mean, I talk about casting with you back in the EU Masters in 2018, like growing from that. Humanoid was one of the guys that came up from that. Razork was one of the guys that came up from that. So it's really cool to kind of see these guys now playing alongside veterans like Wunder, Upset, Hylissang, and popping off.
Yeah, Malrang's going to have to put the Crescent Guard here. He thought he could steal away the red buff, but all that is stolen is his life from in front of his eyes. Fnatic with their 6th kill of the game.
I mean, that was just a really nice pick. Humanoid coming in to cut off the retreat pattern, and this is one of the things that we've seen a lot from Rogue, is that sometimes they just overextend when they don't have these big early leads. And Malrang, you trying to play off on this bot side, trying to see if you can establish vision control for a side lane push with that Graves with the Hullbreaker, but not able to do so, right? See here, doesn't know where anyone is, thinks he's totally fine, but there's just too many members of Fnatic in the vicinity.
Basically nothing he could do. I don't think he, on the spectator, we can see those Krugs being auto-attacked. I'm pretty sure Malrang can't see that. It's just a spectator client thing, so he wouldn't have had awareness of that anyway. Rift Tower put down in the mid lane, will charge forward, get that mid lane tower down, and Fnatic have begun to extend this gold lead, now 3,000 ahead at the 20-minute mark. Comp stepping forward, though, Gale forcing in. Thinking perhaps he could cut out Razork, but Razork still has the stopwatch, still has the flash, still has a multitude of options to get away from the fight. And
Trymbi was still in the wings for Comp, right? That's why you can see him playing so aggressive. He knows that he's allowed to do this, and all he's really trying to do is just slow down the tempo that Fnatic have got for themselves, right? Because now you've got a reset here coming through as Razork. He's, well, never mind, he's smited, but should be able to like kind of push them back, make sure that they're not able to aggressively shove onto the waves, and that'll stop Fnatic from getting that vision in your jungle. And that's all that you're trying to see for Fnatic right now, right? Is try and make sure you've got the push and bot. You're going to move Humanoid up to this top side momentarily, I imagine. Or even they might just look to see if, Graves shows up in a wave and you can just have Humanoid port down onto him in the bottom.
Actually looks like Hexgate's coming in here from Upset as they chase forward. Larssen spotted on a ward originally. Hylissang here as well. Will flash forward. Depth charge onto Larssen. Malrang now on the wrong side of this fight. Rooted up, and that's his 5th death of the game. Fnatic unrelenting in their desire to shut down Malrang. We said it at the start of the game, the second half of the season has not been as impactful for this rogue jungler, and Fnatic have just kept him on a leash this entire match.
And there was nothing that you could really see from Malrang setting up, right? He hasn't really been able to get into a lane, as I say that.
Hylissang going forward. Moonfall's going to land. Trymbi, though, with a good devour. He will fall. Larssen, though, look for some damage. Still has the Shockwave. Odoamne forced away. Shockwave lands onto 2, but look at the damage coming out from Wunder. He chases in. Hits one auto onto Odoamne. Can't flashing forward. Flashing away. Gale forcing forward. Couldn't get the kill. No Super Mega Death Rocket available, and Fnatic, their health bars may be waning, but the fight continues for them. 6,000 gold ahead.
I mean, they're battered and bruised, but they got what they came for. Bot lane turret, more kills in their pocket, and now this side lane pressure that Fnatic have been able to garner for themselves only gets worse. You're going to be able to push in on this bot side, make sure that you're actually hitting onto inhibitor turret. You now are able to shove in top as well, and if you end up seeing Rogue trying to contest both sides waves, just rotate mid. You just outnumber them, then you're totally fine. So it becomes so difficult for Rogue to try and enact their will on the map. And we're just going to hop into this replay here. Larssen, as an Orianna, you never want to be the one defending this. And you can see great hook from Hilly there, sets this all up. The Moonfall onto 2 while you get the Orianna devoured, but everyone is just able to follow up so quickly. And Larssen doesn't even get out because Trymbi's just dead.
Rogue is just, there's no way you can answer this. Wunder, he's been quiet most of the game, but when it comes down to it, he can still output a lot of damage. And if you just look across the scorelines, Dagda, you can see the indication of how Fnatic are playing this game and how they played so well across the course of Spring. You have 100% kill participation on your AD carry. He's 5-0-4. Fnatic last year did this all the time. We saw Adam TPing down into the bottom lane at level 4 to try and make plays. That's been removed, but they're like, okay, cool. Wunder can get 2 kill participation out of 9. We're still just gonna gank bot lane over and over and over again, and now Upset's at 3 items.
I mean, it's a working game plan, right? Because Upset and Hilly are so good at punishing once they get these advantages, and it makes it really difficult to try and have any sort of answer. And you can see it here, right? I mean, Upset has been monstrous in these team fights alongside Razork setting them up, and at the end of the day, right, Wunder, investing resources into Wunder in this matchup isn't going to do anything. As soon as that Hullbreaker comes through, I mean, Odo just wins the push regardless. It's such a stupid item.
Yep.
But Wunder, it doesn't matter. All he has to do is just kind of play in a side lane, push in the wave, and then that's his job done, right? All he wants to do is go, hey, look, maybe I can get some poke off with this 2 items when we get to team fights, but all I want to do is just create pressure on the map that Rogue have to respond to so we can then group and look for picks.
And that's what they're trying to do by securing that dragon as well. But third of the game for them, Rogue unwilling to take the fight. And it's difficult for Rogue because they have a strong front to back. They have strong power if they can find that front to back fight. But it's so tricky when there's so much pick potential coming out from Fnatic. And now Rogue so far in the hole that they are looking down the face of objective bounties.
And you can see Fnatic are aware what Rogue can do to answer this, right? Like, the best way for Rogue to try and play this would have been to, give up Dragon, go and start up Baron, so then you draw Fnatic into, right? Then you get that front-to-back fight because there's no vision control established for Fnatic in the top side. But Humanoid just pops the Destiny and like, all right, cool, yeah, you're not anywhere near us. Yeah, we're just going to peace off. We're going to go push in top side, make sure that we're consistently getting these waves into your side of the map, and we can ping-pong these back. It's just that very quickly the board that Rogue are playing on is getting shorter and shorter.
Cutting corners off the chessboard, losing pieces by the moment, and Fnatic very willing to capture any unit that they can find. 3 items as well on Humanoids. He's doing his best James Bond impression, 007, his scoreline right now. And of course, Twisted Fate does have some damage, you know, he provides something in terms of DPS to the team, but most it's just about getting those stun cards out and getting the pick potential from the Destiny. It's working out well, especially when you have a second AP carry in the form of Diana.
Yeah, it just means that you can't really go for just pure armor on the side of Rogue, which would have been super nice. We'll see Malrang going towards it, right? I think the death stance that we see a lot of the times coming through second items for the Zinzao works when you're ahead. I definitely prefer something like the Randuin's Omen when you're behind, just because the death stance, like, you don't get the resets when you're behind in fights to try and get rid of the passive bleed, and you just can't make as much use out of the item in general. So definitely the Randuin's Omen going to be good against a very fed Aphelios, as Rogue try and battle for vision on this top side.
Well, Hylissang's trying to battle for a fight. He lands the hook. Odoamne forces him away. Hylissang down to about 60% HP. Rogue will retreat, but their vision is being hulled before their eyes. More fog for them to walk into and comp. He's got a little bit of healing in his back pocket, so he shouldn't worry too much about that poke coming out from Wunder, but it is indicative of how much damage this Fnatic lineup can do.
And they're just going to steal away this entire bot side. So now Rogue, even though it's kind of been an even trade back and forth, still losing out. You're going to have Wunder now start to push in on this bot lane. Odo will answer, but Fnatic again dipping into that fog of war. Odo can't step up to try and contest the wave because he doesn't know where Humanoid is. Humanoid can just join Wunder at any moment in time in this bot side, and 2v1 isn't very pretty for the Graves. So now again, Rogue take a step back. They're giving more room to Fnatic, and as Fnatic get the faster reset here, they're going to be able to get vision on this top side again.
It feels very much like it's a waiting game for the next dragon. Yeah. Like, because you say to Rogue, okay, cool, we can set up vision around the Baron because you're not willing to fight us, which makes sense because you're so far behind. If we wait 2 minutes, we now have control of the topside river because you haven't been there for 3 minutes. And we have control of the botside river where we're fighting for Hextech Soul and you're only fighting for your second dragon of the game.
Now, if Rogue ever find that fight though, bloody hell, like, you've got 2 items already on this Orianna, 3 items on this Jinx. If they find that fight, they hurt like crazy. It's just a case of trying to get that.
Humanoid. There is the Sun card locked in. Malrang pops the Crescent Guard. Razork dives forward. The question is, can Rogue delay this fight long enough? You got the ultimate out of the Xin Zhao. Fnatic unwilling to step further forward. Odoamne is now joined up with the team. Larssen off towards the top side will try and push out that wave. It looks like Fnatic now moving down towards the bottom side, setting up control around this Hextech Soul that will be spawning in about a minute's time.
And it becomes even harder for Rogue to try and find these fights if this Hextech Soul goes across. Slows on the auto attack, mean it's even more difficult for Malrang to try and find these engages. And again, that's their only real engage tool here on Rogue. Like, Malrang going in with the Wind Becomes Lightning and then the Audacious Charge, or Larssen finding some miracle shockwave. That is your 2 options here as Rogue, unless Fnatic just send it on a wing and a prayer.
It's a tough tightrope to walk for Rogue. Bounty's still available to them, of course. Not too consequential right now. It's a little bit of extra gold. Malrang's actually taking the Hextech Gate forward here, trying to get some vision into the Fnatic jungle. Looks like we're going to start to see resets coming out. Odoamne TP's back in, as does Larssen. Larssen still only sitting on Shadow Flame and Ludens. That Shockwave can do a lot, but nowhere near as powerful as it could be at this point in the game.
again, I mean, if Rogue are willing to try and go this hard for the fight, I think Fnatic, you need to be careful. They have a massive lead, which definitely helps, but you do have to be careful your main carries aren't getting picked off or hit by this shockwave.
And the issue is, as Rogue, you're walking into first Darkness, secondly, into a choke point against the Diana, against the Twisted Fate, and against the Jayce. Like, the poke is absurd from Fnatic. Upset's going to put a little turret across the wall. Hextech started up. The damage onto Odoamne and comp is sizable. Moonlight Vigil dodged back. Larssen stepping in. Malrang going forward as well. Has the ball on him. There's a blast cone for Odoamne. He wants to get into the back of that fight, but look at the damage onto Larssen. Humanoid once again, the front line. Odoamne stepping in. Blast cones away. Hextech down to about 3,000. Malrang dives onto the back. Razork's on a killing spree though, and he takes 2 out. Comp has to try and survive, but he can do nothing as the destiny finds him. Larssen exhausted. Fnatic rout Rogue in the bottom side river. They claim the soul. They claim 5 kills, and they lose nothing for it.
And they can even turn over towards the Baron as well. Fnatic are outpacing Rogue every step of the way, and they say, screw it, we don't care about the Baron, we can look at the base instead.
Tick, tick, time's up. It's unspeakable violence from Fnatic once again. And the team that has developed across the course of spring now look like the strongest team in the league. They are challenging Rogue for that first place, unwilling to settle for second. Fnatic clean up the kills, and they will take their 10th win of spring.
And with that, Fnatic locking themselves in for playoffs as well. And what a way to do it. That was complete control from start to finish. Entirely different from the first game we saw between these two teams.
Just domination from Fnatic, as you say. Last time it was even until about 25 minutes, and then Rogue skyrocketed. Here it was more like 20 minutes, 18 minutes, and Fnatic just started to roll away with the game. It was a battle of 2 fed AD carries, and in the end, it was Upset and Fnatic who came out on top.
And you can see the game plan coming through, right? Let's try and get Upset that control. Humanoid doing a wonderful job once more in this TF. He's just been insane on it.
He really has. Your key player of the game votes at LEC on Twitter. Razork, Humanoid, and Hylissang, all viable options. I always love it when Hylissang plays someone that can be aggressive, which is, you know, all the time, because he just flash forward hooks. It's the hang effect, man. Like, you guys have hang, we have Hylissang. They're going to meet at Worlds, hopefully.
It'd be sick, and especially since, you know, both these guys just consider Flash, you know, a regular ability. They're going to use it anyway.
It's just like QWER, isn't it? And after the break, we'll look closer at Fnatic's win. But first, let's listen to Wanna Give You Love by DTE, the Warner Song of the Week. Available on the official LEC playlist on Spotify.